with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being broadcast by Chelmsford Telemedia. Will anyone else be recording this meeting? Nobody? Okay. Just a couple of announcements before we get underway. We're scheduled to have a meeting next Tuesday on the 28th. We will not be meeting next Tuesday. Combination of reasons. We have town meeting, which I'm taking a wild guess. We'll go both nights, 2 nights. And we're going to Day on the Hill on Wednesday. And we're in the midst, we being the administration and school committee, are involved with a lot of projects, including interviews. So we will be picking up on May 5th rather than the 12th, because we felt that that would be too big a gap to wait until the 12th, which is the next scheduled meeting. So there's no meeting on the 28th, and we'll be having a first, quote-unquote, normal, regular scheduled meeting on the 12th. I wanted to just take a moment to talk about a couple of the good news type of items. Some of you probably saw from social media or the press that the high school's robotics team won 2 significant awards at the New England Bot Ball competition. You also probably have seen that the All-Town Wind Ensemble played Star Spangled Banner at Fenway. So our music groups continue to play all over the place and excel. Some of you may have seen that Chelmsford High School teamed with the Chelmsford Rotary Club on a recent half-day. About 150 of the high school students stayed after school and packaged 11,000 meals for Stop Hunger Now, which is a program that provides some emergency relief, but also a major part of their program is to feed students so they can stay in school. In a lot of the developing countries, the kids have to go to work to help provide food and other necessities for the family. So a lot of their emphasis is on feeding kids so they can stay in school. I also want to acknowledge that Anne Marie has been acknowledged as having one of the top 100 K through 12 social tech programs, if you will, in the country, so that's outstanding. And I also want to thank all the participants in the community read-in, which is a really wonderful program. I've enjoyed it. I didn't get there this year. It's been kind of busy, but in the past, when I would go in, when they found out that I had been principal, or was at the time principal of the high school, they'd say, "Do you know my brother?" And then I'd have, or my sister, and we'd go through a whole litany of, "Yes, I know your brother," or "I know your sister," and then finally they get to read. But the kids are just wonderful during that program. So, did anyone else in the board have any commendation or anything they wanted to add along those lines? Okay. The first item on our business is technology update. Superintendent.
Thank you. When we met last week, the committee had directed us to look back at our reductions in order to meet our voted appropriation for our school budget of $52.4 million. In doing so, we had a lot of conversation regarding our technology program. We had some folks making some comparisons regarding our technology program. And what we wanted to do is just, I'd asked Anne Marie just to spend probably about 3 minutes just to go over just a couple of facts in terms of clarification so that the committee is clear regarding some information regarding our tech program. Anne Marie?
Thank you, Dr. Tiano. So if you look at the screen, you can see that one of the comparisons made was with Wilmington, that is part of our DART, our comparable school districts. They have a higher per pupil spending cost than we do. And also 16, whatever that, I can't read it.
1608.
Thank you. 1608 less students than we do. The other comparison was North Reading. 2,500, roughly, less students than we have, half our district. That's non-DART. They're not a comparable school district. And I went back and looked through the past 5 years or so. They've never been in our DART as far back as I've been here. They're really too small. Again, higher per pupil cost, per pupil expenditure than Chelmsford. So to make a comparison on these three districts in any way, it's hard to be made. So if you're going to compare, okay, let's compare. New construction, that's the replica of the first. I just thought it was funny to put that picture there. Wilmington has a brand-new high school. So that would be like budgetarily me saying, okay, great, high school's all done. Now I have to worry about Parker, McCarthy, the 4 elementaries, and the Westlands location. That's a huge thing in a budget if you're not budgeting for one entire school, because in a new construction, you get everything. Projectors, interactive whiteboards, document cameras, the clicker systems, student response systems. You get the whole thing. That's a document camera over there, the red ladybug. So comparing more, North Reading has a new middle high school. The kids are in the same building, and yet it's a new construction. So let's do the comparison. Now I'm in my office. We have a brand-new Chelmsford High School, a brand-new Parker, and a brand-new McCarthy. So I take my budget, and now I have to spend it on 4 elementaries and 1 preschool. So it's, again, really not a comparable situation. It takes a big, that new construction takes a big load off every department when they're in a new, I've been in a district that's had 5 new constructions. I've seen this. I've been in those new classrooms. You get everything. There was also, that's a network diagram. That's our network. There was an assertion made that there were things on the network that shouldn't be there. Okay, so let's just take a look at it. I know it probably looks like mumbo jumbo to a lot of you, but it's all right. I'll explain to you what it is. Everything starts from the internet. It's in the, that's what the cloud picture is. It goes down to our switches. Our firewalls are there. Chelmsford High School is to the left because they run a substantially separate network. They're part of our network, but because of the size of it, it has to be separated from the rest. Things go down, the wireless controllers, which go down to the end users, the printers, the schools have switches. And this is as standard as it comes, school network. It's even standard for business networks. This is the topology of many businesses, businesses which would be our size, 6,000 people. That's the staff and the students combined. I don't know how else to explain it. There's nothing else on this network that's frivolous, that shouldn't be there. I will tell you, when I first got here, there was a network tool that monitored the network. It was $35,000, and the software that ran it was $25,000. I cut that 5 years ago. That's the only thing maybe a business would have on this model that we wouldn't have. Matt, the network administrator, and I, we do the network monitoring. We log into each server, each switch, make sure everything's up. That's why I'm here hyper early in the morning. That's what I'm doing. We're doing the work of what that appliance would do, because we know we can't afford that. And that's it.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Back to you.
We're just looking just to clarify some
Yeah.
information.
Did anyone have any questions?
I do. Why is Westford not a DART community for us? They're almost the same size.
Linda?
Let me just explain what the DART is. So the DART, because it's another acronym, is the District Analysis and Review Tool. It's going to change every year. It's based on enrollment, MCAS scores, special ed population, ELL population. So that's why you probably won't see Westford on there, because if they're special ed, their enrollment seems to be somewhat the same, but if they're special ed and their ELL enrollment and their test scores are not the same, they get pushed out of the DART. Now, next year, they could be in the DART.
But Andover's in our DART?
They are, because if you look at their test scores, and you look at how many students that they have, what their percentages for ELL, and then their subgroups, it's all those subgroups. So your special ed population, homeless population, you know how they break that down. I'll go through that very long PowerPoint again at the beginning of the year. But once they break that down, that's how they decide what districts are most comparable to your district.
And when do they make that determination every
It will
year?
be at the end of the testing. So right now, you only have the 2014. So after we're done with this whole testing and with the MCAS and all of our access scores and AP and everything, that will all get filtered into the DESE, and then they'll put that out in that DART tool.
And would I be able to go online now and get that information about Westford and be able to compare it and say, that's why?
Yeah, what's nice about the DART tool is you can put in other towns. Even though they're not your comparable town, you could say, okay, what do we look like up against Westford, up against Billerica?
Yeah.
I'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Emery, just tell us again where we stand compared to other schools from a technology perspective.
Well, I think that 2 years ago, when we did the park field test, we had Sal, you're new, but we had this chart where we had to actually physically go to every computer, log in to this, so it was a direct connection to the DOE, every server, every computer in the district. And what it did was it measured the network speed, the capacity of the computer, all the specs of the computer, graphics cards. We had to do it with the iPads as well. And we got 100% all green, 100% or greater than 100. So I didn't really know what that meant, so I called the DOE, and they said, yeah, greater than 100 meant that your network is faster than our tool can track it.
Wow.
So, and I'm assuming park or a park-like test is coming back.
So,
In-
so greater than we're as good, if not better than other schools
Yeah.
compared to us.
All across every building, green on the whole chart, no reds, no yellows.
And that's nice to have on a chart, but what does that look like in terms of service and what we need in the classroom?
Well, in the classroom, we offer a variety of, we offer everything. Computer programming from grade 2 to grade 12. We have an assistive technology half-time person who does the IEPs, does the evaluations for IEPs. So in other words, if a child needs a certain device to accommodate their disability, we have somebody in-house who can do that. That way we can control the cost, best thing within our, kind of our budget. Instead, previously, they used to send them out to all different organizations, and sometimes they would come back with something that we knew could be accomplished on an iPad versus buying some device. We have, technology integration, teachers in the building. We offer 450 hours of professional development. The kids get instruction from grades actually preschool through 6. 7 and 8 is an enrichment style thing, and then technology at the high school, that's in all subjects. There's no subject that's not using some software, hardware, both. From being here at school committee, every time we have a presentation from someone, they say, and this is how technology is used in my area, food service, guidance, you name it, whoever comes up here. That's always one of the things that they say on their presentations. It's literally integrated into everything, not only educationally either. Janitors, custodians have software. Everybody has software.
And in terms of the speed, just the online testing is coming, whether it's MCAS or
Yeah.
Park, and we're prepared for that.
Absolutely.
Is every district prepared for that?
No, in fact, the comparison to Wilmington and North Reading, I know one of those two districts, and I'm not sure which one, actually, they had to halt the park testing on the field test because their network just,
Not at Chelmsford, though.
I don't know,
We're ready.
yeah.
But
We had no
voted
issues with the
against
park
doing
test.
in our district.
Yeah, well,
MCAS will likely be a computer-based exam, but for now, Park's not. We voted 4-1 against instituting that.
that was the
And,
right move.
looking at the next presidential election, if that turns over, then there are going to be big changes, I would imagine.
You'll have online testing in a year, 2 years.
Yeah, right, sorry.
Right.
Period.
The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education will be making their determination on what type of testing we're going to, whether it's Park or an MCAS-like Park or MCAS in the fall of 2015, once they finish the testing with both MCAS and Park this spring.
Thank you, Emery. Thank you, Linda.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Very good. Our next item of business is the fiscal 16 budget and the adjustments that have been made to accommodate change.
Sure. When we had developed our preliminary budget, we presented that to this committee, and as you know, that was over $53 million. And working with the town manager and this body voted to have our actual budget proposed to bring to town meeting to be $52.4 million. In order to get from the first number to the second, we needed to reduce our budget by over $618,000. We had, our administration had brought recommendations to you folks. You folks had a few weeks to ponder those. Last week, you had voted to direct us to reinstate the fifth grade teachers at the McCarthy Middle School and look for alternative savings. What we've done, and we emailed this to you folks you have a chart, Anne Marie, you can put that up for us, please. And it's in your packet currently. There are, we had put back the McCarthy Middle School teachers, and that reduction was potentially $100,000. One of the things we shared with you last Tuesday evening as well, with the with us having to move in the direction of having our own food service director next year, we needed to add an additional $25,000 we estimated to our budget. To do that, we had to reduce that from some other place. What we've done is we've, and you can see on the chart, we've color-coded it, we've added additional reductions that total $125,257. We've eliminated the reduction of the grade 5 teacher, so that puts back $100,000. And then you come back to that's not the one you, close that. It looks like that. Then that comes down to an additional $25,000 that we could use for our food service. In blue, you have 3 additional areas of reduction. One is for technology staff. That is a staff member who recently, as this past week, is a full-time employee who had requested to go from 5 to 4 days, to go a little bit more than half-time, 4 out of 5 days. And with that, we've granted that, and that's a reduction of what you see there is $9,257. Additionally, you see a reduction of $50,000 in technology contracts. As we've talked about in the past, we've gone back and forth with our vendors in terms of trying to get the best price that we can get. Anne Marie does that on a regular basis. Our department coordinators do that with textbook companies and so forth. And that reduction is of $50,000. The last one that you see is in blue. That is a sped tuition reduction for $66,000. That represents a particular student. And as you know, for our FY16 budget, what our special education department has done is they have already encumbered essentially for each out-of-district child. So we can see, of course, no names, child X, child Y, child Z, and so forth. One particular child for $66,000 will not be with us next year. And so that has come about. These things change. Some weeks we add, some weeks we take away. And that has come at an opportune time for us. So we're able to unencumber that particular student, and again, that total brings us to $125,257. That's it in a nutshell. Frank, did I miss any part of that?
Nope.
It's pretty
complete.
It's pretty straightforward. I went through this with Al yesterday. That's our recommendation to you, and we ask for your consideration.
So the proper thing, we vote that and then vote the whole package.
You folks have already voted the bottom line number of
okay.
52.4 in terms of what this looks like inside the budget.
So just a vote acknowledging this change?
I
Yeah.
would say yes to accept these changes.
I'd like a motion to that effect.
I actually have a couple of
Oh, sure.
questions
I'm
before
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what the technology contract was for?
Sure. Amory?
We had purchased last July Microsoft Office 365, which was the latest version of Office. And at that time, there were 2 ways to purchase it, with all the options and with none of the options. None of the options was free through the Connected initiative, which is the thing that Dr. Tiana was with the White House. Obama got these companies. But we needed some of the options. Throughout this year, Matt, the network administrator, and I have been taking those options that we needed and putting them in here internal. It's because Microsoft 365 is cloud-based, but you can hook it up with your network. So we figured out a way over the options to get rid of them in end of February, and then we renegotiated the price with Microsoft, which made it free.
Okay.
So once again, through the technology department, you were able to take out approximately $59,000
Yep.
out of what you were budgeting.
Yeah,
One
that's exactly
was
right.
a negotiation, and one was a decrease in staff. And as a result of the SPED program, you were able to save us close to 60,000,
66.
66,000. So we didn't have to cut anyone else, you didn't have to change anything, and you were able to take care of the food director and take care of the 2 teachers.
The answer is yes, and it's fortuitous in terms of the timing, and particularly of the special ed tuition. I mean, that's, you try to foresee folks, students moving forward in terms of where they're going towards either graduation and so forth. But this was, this came at a good time for us.
Savings is a savings. Great job. Great job.
In other words, I can't take credit for that savings. Otherwise, we'd be coming with more difficult decisions for you.
Since the last time we talked, I think, about the budget, there's also been, the House budget has also been released with an extra $5, a proposed $5 per student in Chapter 78 minimum increase, which would be about $25,000 for our district, and also an increase in the circuit breaker funding. There, I think, being to try to allocate a number that would represent full funding as required by law. Have those been factored into the budget?
The Chapter 70 money goes back into the general fund. It's money that's used, and the town manager plans on using that to offset all expenses within the town. So that has not been a reduction or an increase in our budget. Those are just monies that are going into the general fund.
So essentially what's happening then is that the amount of money that the town is providing us is not as far over the minimum required funding as it had been. But our budget is not seeing that as a direct increase.
Our budget is not seeing it as a direct increase. We are talking, if you're talking about $25,000, I haven't looked at all of the expenses on the town level, but I would say, based on what I have seen in past years, as well as what we reviewed earlier this year, that the town will far exceed the net school spending
Right, by
requirement.
millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have been doing that every year for a lot of years.
And the circuit breaker money, I'm a little less clear.
The circuit, it's a proposal.
Yeah.
And so I would be very cautious right now to make any adjustment in the circuit breaker money. Let's see how all of that plays out, and if it comes to fruition that you get that money, then you will have some additional money going into your circuit breaker.
Right.
And at that point, you could make some adjustment if you wanted to your general fund expenses.
But the number that we had in the original proposed budget
Yes.
was based on the governor's funding of the circuit breaker and not the 75% statutory requirement, right?
It was definitely not based on the 75%. It's more like a 68, 70% figure that we've used in the past. You have to be conservative when you're budgeting for
Absolutely.
that, because you really don't know what's going to happen with that circuit breaker money. And if you do get more, great. Then you can put that aside and use it for a rainy day, because sometimes you have a rainy day when it comes to
Right.
special education.
Right. I guess my last question would be about, do we have a final number now, an estimated revenue for school choice next year, and is that allocated somewhere, or are we planning to use it as a reserve, much as we did this year?
The school choice is not allocated. It's going to be used as a reserved. I haven't talked with Frank in the past couple of days. I know the person that we have who is overseeing the applications has been out for a few days, so I'm not sure the exact number that we have. But
She had emailed me those. We're working on those
Right.
in my office right
But
now.
we know we know what we're getting through the end of the year anyway, right? And they do the recount, the recount doesn't hit until December? Was that when it came through this year?
They do a recount in March and in June, when they see the final numbers, to see whether or not any student has left and gone to a different community. But so far, we have received, as you saw on your last monthly statement, approximately $200,000, and we're projected to receive approximately $347,000 this year.
347, yeah, okay.
Wasn't there also an increase on special education transportation? The percentage was increased slightly, not,
I think the regional transportation
Oh, okay,
reimbursement
okay.
was that, but that'd go to
Right.
Neshoba Tech.
Make a motion to approve the potential cuts in FY16, the newest one that Frank submitted.
Second.
I'd like to make one request, if I may.
Sure.
And that would be to see a final kind of line item budget before town meeting. Once again, I'm still just a little unclear. As the superintendent indicated, we have in fact voted the bottom line number, but I'm still a little unclear on where exactly the lines are drawn. If we're going to insist that the transfers between lines be brought to us, what I'd like to see, I don't need to see the whole book. I need to see the lines and the amounts in each line that we're authorizing, so that we can understand when adjustments are made, when are those adjustments things that need to be voted by the committee, and when are those adjustments legitimate transfers, inside a cost center or within a function that don't need to be held up by our approval.
As far as giving you that information is concerned, I can break it down for you by the state function codes if you would like, if that's the type of summary that you want. If you want anything beyond that, then it will be the entire budget, line by line.
If you think that's an appropriate level of detail, and this is something we've been talking about since October, really, but again, I think I would be happy to take your guidance on this. If you think that's an appropriate level of detail in terms of the committee taking responsibility for transfers, that would be sufficient for me.
I think that you should have a complete budget in order to make your transfers, to make decisions on transfers. I don't see that as necessary before the town meeting, and the reason for that is because the town meeting will be voting on the total budget, as I understand it, and as I saw it last night at the meeting that we went to. So we're not going to be making any transfers in this school budget until the beginning of next fiscal year. So we have plenty of time, in my opinion, to give you a complete outline of the budget and to, just give you an overview of it so that you'll be very comfortable with it and you will know where you can make transfers or when those transfers will be made.
And that'll be part of the recommendations, too, coming from MASBO. They were with us last week, and that stems from, best practice to policy and then back down in terms of, where the committee would like to draw those particular lines. But I agree in terms of just getting through and have it appropriated through town meeting.
And you're saying that if the appropriation changes, we may need to change lines anyway?
That's right.
It's not,
Okay.
it's not a budget until it's voted.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I think it was good for you to keep reminding us of, this challenge that would. Any other quick comments?
Just at the FY16 budget, we weren't going to see any changes in line items until we had voted what the reductions and cuts were.
Right.
And then you wouldn't see it, just like you said before, until we see what our revenues are that are going to come in also that may be offsetting what it is we have. So it's more or less a fluid document until, we have it voted by town meeting, and then we move forward.
It is a fluid document until it's voted by town meeting. Hopefully, you get the $52.4 million that the town manager is recommending, and then we make the changes in the budget and can present that. That budget is going to sit there for a while. Nothing's going to happen, and you'll have plenty of time to review it before July 1.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion to approve the 3 cuts in technology staff, technology contracts, and sped tuition reduction, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
I would just like to comment that I think it's particularly worthy of note that making the cuts this way, one of the areas that would have been easier perhaps in some ways to look at would be the school choice item. And by the work that was done by the administration to come up with the cuts in these other areas leaves that $200,000 there for part of the money that we will need to offset potential deficit. So that this is a big move, I think, and I really appreciate it. All right, next item on the business, is the last day of school vote.
This is, thank you, Al. We added this agenda item just for folks who are making summer plans. Hopefully it's not going to snow again. And I'd be remiss if I did not thank once again our custodians, our maintenance staff, and our DPW. If you look around us, you look at other communities across the Commonwealth who have been out 10 days, 12 days, they're trying to figure out how to make up those days currently. We missed 4 days of school. And we were in session when other folks right around us were not. And again, I've said this before publicly, other superintendents, your DPW is just better than ours and your folks. And so I'm thankful to all those guys and gals. They do a super job. That being said, we have 6 snow days built into the calendar. We used 4, so you have a calendar in your packet. With the 6 days, this is simple math. It's the last day for students is the 25th. You go back 2 days, and officially, should you folks vote that this evening, the last day of school for students would be the 23rd of June. That is a Tuesday. Reminder, there's a half day for students, a full day for staff. And then consequently, the next day, the 24th, would be the last day for staff, and that is a half day for them as well.
Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the proposal that the superintendent's made.
I make a motion to adopt 23rd being the last day of school.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstaining? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Any other business before the group? Okay, I just want to remind school committee members, you received certificate about the open meeting law a while ago. Make sure, if you haven't taken care of that, to get that done. And I just want to make a statement to the, there's been some discussion on social media about how we're progressing in general terms. Interviews are being conducted for a couple of the major positions, and I think that we'll be closing on some of them in the near future. So things are being handled appropriately, and I hope that you'll accept that, because it's taking a lot of time, a lot of efforts going into it, and we still have a lot of challenges, but we are making steady progress. Any other comments or business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 7:29,
Picture 32.
thereabouts.
Al, do you want to get a picture for the school committee?
Sure, picture.